And we are live. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Global Citizens. My name is Calvin. I'm the show's host, and I'm the creator of this platform. Yeah. So my guest for today is Ms Sanne Breimer. Yeah. So Sanne, would you be kind enough to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name is Sanne Breimer. I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm currently traveling through Asia. I started this travel in January, and yeah, I'm a journalist, and I really wanted to learn from what's happening in Asia if it's about journalism. So I wanted to know more about the media ecosystem. So I quit my job in Netherlands to travel and work at the same time this year, and that's what I'm doing now.
Okay. All right. For those who just tune into this channel for the very first time, yeah, Global Citizen is a channel that I use in order to guest host third culture kids, cross culture kids, digital or global nomad, how you want to call them, and of course, location independent entrepreneur and expatriates. So basically, those individuals who had experience living and exploring different parts of the world. The reason being is that when you come to a new country as a tourist, of course, most at least 90% of the time you will have leave the place with a positive experience because you are there for a holiday. But it's a different ball game entirely when you are coming in there as an entrepreneur or you want to expand your business. It's because you need to take note of stuff like personal culture, ethics, and yeah, if you are not aware of it, you're pretty much just gonna your expansion or any other plans is failed immediately. So with regards to that, yeah, my first question to Sandra is actually with regards to some of the social media posting. So if you guys have been following my social media, my Facebook pages, I usually post articles which is relating to intercultural issue at times. So there were two posts. One of them is under my own Facebook page. It's regards to a recent issue in Singapore whereby an Australian entrepreneur was insulting the locals who are Chinese. And there's actually one post on Sanna's Instagram post that I really love. She was telling us about the need to be sensitive in Bali with regards to culture. Okay, so Senna, the first question is this, yeah. What do you think could be done for foreigners, or at least when you are coming into as a tourist to another country? What do you think could be done to prevent insensitivity to their ethics, and how could the locals you think could be more accepting?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I wrote about it in my Instagram. Indeed, what you're mentioning,
Yep.
because I mean, I can't speak for all the countries, but in general, I think, especially when you don't live there, where you come as a tourist or a visitor for a few months, you just need to be aware of the local customs, right? And
Correct.
that's, for me, it's common sense to read a little bit about that before you go, but
Yeah.
also inform yourself through talking to local people, for example. And the thing in Bali is, it's actually very interesting because the Balinese culture is very open.
Yes.
So people are so friendly. So when you talk to people, to tourists who've been in Bali, they will always say, "Oh, the people there are so friendly and they're so open." And
Correct.
but the thing is, sometimes we think that openness equals that you can do everything, right? So
Yeah.
because
Correct.
they're so open to whatever you're doing, even in Bali, I think when I mean, I'm not an expert on this topic, obviously, but what I hear from people is that, for example, if tourists go to a temple and they misbehave, when it's real misbehavior, then obviously the police will come. But also when you just don't wear the right clothes, for example, or you don't dress up, then local people won't tell you that in your face. But
Correct.
the next day, they will go twice as much to the temple to do offerings to balance that out, right? So, and that's something that tourists and also people who stay here from other countries don't always understand. And I think this is only what you learn when you talk with locals about this and have a conversation, a little bit more an in-depth conversation about this. So that's one of the examples. So I think you just need to be very aware of where you come from. I'm always very aware of the fact that I'm a white woman coming from a rich country like the Netherlands. I'm blonde, so I'm always aware of my presence when I go to other countries, and that's how I see, like, okay, this is how people react to me, and I think that's just common sense, and that's maybe my advice to other people as well.
That I really appreciate that. That is really considerate on your part. Yeah. So just to let you guys know, what is going on in Bali is not reflective of everything in Indonesia, in Jakarta. In fact, if, like what Sanne said, if you wear something that is inappropriate here in Jakarta, people can be openly critical about you, and you don't want that to happen. And in fact, there are certain issues on insensitivity that could happen, and it could cause a lot of unnecessary publicity in the negative sense, and also it will give a negative impression of your country. Like, for example, when I was in South Korea, I think last December, the thing is, with what people do not know is that actually, when, let's say, you are ordering food, right, and if you, a more appropriate example was actually in the taxi. So we actually booked an early cab for 5 a.m. At that time. We were late for around 10 minutes. Of course, this is our mistake on our part, but the driver was so unhappy, and he was scolding us throughout the entire ride when he was bringing us. So this is something to do with their commitment to punctuality. So this is, of course, our mistake, yeah. But at that time, I think it was a little bit too much. And also it's because when we hire somebody, I think where it's a general impression that because you hire the person, you would have expected a quality service. But at the same time, we have to understand that this is their commitment to punctuality. This is the culture in South Korea. So it is our mistake at that time. But maybe if there's an improvement on customer service that could be done, it's something that could be appreciated. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sanne, so as a journalist, right? One of the main challenge nowadays is because with social media, you sometimes you do not have a much more objective representation. I mean, it's already a general knowledge that sometimes big medias, they tend to play a bit more biasness towards a certain campaign, or I'm not going to say any name or any company. Yeah. So let's just leave it at that. Okay. So in this era of digital media, okay, what kind of contents could actually be something that can give of the utmost value to the people?
Yeah, so it's interesting what you're saying about biased media companies, because I think everyone is biased. So that's something to be considerate of as well, right?
Right.
I mean, I think it connects to what I was saying earlier. You need to be aware of the fact that you're a certain person growing up in a certain country with certain beliefs, religiously, politically, and that makes that you're biased. You grew up biased. So obviously, in the media world nowadays, we have many challenges because there's a lot of fake news out there as well. So that's not about bias anymore, but it's just it's just not true or incorrect. But in the end of the day, every media company talks from a certain bias. So that's something I think journalists should also be more aware of and be more transparent of, because journalists in general have this idea that there's a certain independence possible. And obviously the facts are very important. We have always the facts to use in our reporting, but even the facts can be biased. So you need to do, and it doesn't, and I'm definitely not going to say with this that you can't trust anybody anymore, because I think that's the danger of our time, that a lot of people mistrust the journalists and media companies. So on that regard, I would say, like, be aware and inform yourself with different sources. And on the journalism side, I would say, be more transparent in where your beliefs and where your facts come from. I need to think about something that I read in Twitter yesterday. There was a research from a think tank in the United States, and this think tank does research on Iran, right?
Okay.
And an anthropologist found out that no one in the think tank speaks Persian language.
Oh, okay.
So you can
Oh,
imagine that,
yeah.
that probably it's going to be a very valuable research that they're going to publish on. But if none of these people speak the native language of Iran and also maybe haven't visited the country, then it's something to think of. It puts the research like this in a different perspective. So that's what I want to say about bias. And then your other question was about what is valuable content nowadays, right? So
correct.
I think it also relates to this topic. I think the day and age we live in makes that people grow apart. I mean, we're all in our own bubble, and especially in social media. So I think if you can create content that gives a certain enlightened empathy, that's a term I learned in Asia, actually. Asian media talk about this more often.
Yeah.
And it means that if your content gives an idea to someone to look at things from a different perspective, leave your own perspective aside, and try to understand someone else's perspective more. I think that's the very valuable content. If you talk about content from a content perspective and not from a creative or a technological perspective, that will be my answer.
Okay. I really appreciate with regards to what you said with regards to the research on Iran. So my very first episode of this channel is actually a friend of mine called Jacques Ofalian. Jacques is actually an expat. He's from he's from Lebanon and he's currently residing in Indonesia. He's an engineer that is responsible for the LRT in Indonesia. So when I told some of my friends, some of my acquaintances from the United States that, hey, I'm actually interviewing a Middle Eastern, everybody's like, oh my God, Calvin, are you interviewing the T word? I'm not gonna say this, but I was like, guys, he's a nice guy. He's a friend of mine.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
everybody, when I mentioned it, some people just grew skeptical. I guess it's because of the impression of how it was portrayed in the past. So I really appreciate with what you mentioned on that. Okay.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, everyone has really a responsibility in this to question yourself. Why is this the first thing you think about? Why is it that this word pops up in your head? Why do you frame this person in this way? Because in the end of the day, you have your own responsibility to look at things in a certain way. And yeah, it's you need to change it if it's too biased.
Correct.
Or has too many prejudice. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so with regards to my next question, it's actually based on a recent encounter between us. So I've actually met Sanne at least 3 times before Global Citizens. The previous 2 was in Singapore. So when I met her last week in Bali, she forgot about me. So
Yeah.
yeah, no
Oh,
worries
it's so
about
embarrassing.
that. No worries.
I
No
even
worries.
told people this never happens to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, not to worry about that because it was quite a while back, and I think that the 2 times I actually met you, it was in Tribe Theory. So in
yeah.
case you guys, so Sandra actually has a connection to the place. You are the former, or are you still acting as the head of content of Tribe Theory?
No, I'm the former head of content of
Okay.
Tribe Theory. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so we actually met there. So
Yeah.
my next question is actually this: on the scale of 1 to 10, now, how important it is for somebody, for an individual, maybe it's an entrepreneur or especially a content creator, to have a strong digital presence in order to leave a lasting impression? And that's one. It's a two-parter question. So the second one is this: how does one deliver a content that still stick to the values instead of just creating something for attention, like recently there was a case of a YouTuber called Logan Paul, I think. He was
Mm-hmm.
doing some nonsense in Japan was that was totally outright disrespectful. I think it was in the Aokigahara forest that is famous for suicide in Japan.
Yeah.
So, okay, how can one create a what does one need to take note of to ensure that the content is of value and yet still maintain a strong digital presence?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and also the example you're mentioning. I know a few of these examples, especially in the suicide forest in
Yeah,
Japan, where I think a lot of YouTubers already did something with that, and YouTubers and influencers who use their own personality to create a big audience. They do sometimes crazy things,
yeah,
right? So. That's something completely different than if you build your company or your startup and you're looking for a digital presence to get customers.
correct.
So I think if you ask like how important is it to have a digital presence, it all starts with what kind of company are you and why do you need a digital presence? And obviously you need a digital presence because I mean, you need to at least have your address somewhere, probably. But even that, you can or a website with some information about your product. But it really depends on what your business is, and if you get a lot of customers through online, then it's the digital presence is very different than if you're not. So, and I think the interesting thing with the digital presence is that the combination with the offline presence is very important in a lot of times. So it's not only being digital presence, but to get a certain actually a community feel with the people, with your clients. That's nowadays very, very important. And you can create that through online as well, but in face-to-face contact too. So I think the question is a little bit too big to answer, but I mean, this would be my answer. Yeah.
Okay, not to worry.
Or maybe I could add one more thing,
Sure.
because I think so it really depends on what kind of company you are. And what I always advise people when I do digital strategy for companies, because that's what I do. I always let them look at really the root of their company. So sometimes people are like, oh yeah, we need to do something with social media, and then they look at the craziest things out there and they want to copy some of the very successful crazy things. But if you don't look at the root of your own company, and if it makes sense to do something like that, then you miss out, or then maybe it's one time it's nice, and then afterwards people don't remember you anymore. Or so even though I'm very fan of doing sometimes one crazy thing, which is surprising to people, I would say if you're looking for a digital strategy for the long term, you really it needs to really come out of the roots of what your company is. And having said that, a lot of people don't even know really the root of their company. So when you start thinking about the digital strategy, it's actually a very interesting process most of the time, because you start to think about what is your company actually, and why did you start this, and all these kind of more in-depth questions.
Actually, even though you say the topic is too big, actually I think the answer is appropriate. So
okay,
because a lot of the companies because the thing is that a business at the end of the day, I think in the mindset is that it's to make money. But at a lot of companies, or in fact a lot of the company owners, lose sight of what the company is about to actually stand. In fact, I used to work for an education company that's supposed to educate public speaking. However, they utilize a system that's so sales oriented that in the end it's insufferable to work for the company. So I get where that is coming from, because it's not only applicable in the way one market product, but also how one operated the product. So
Definitely.
that answer actually makes sense. Not to worry about.
Yeah, and I think money never should be the first priority, because it makes that you stay with your company on a very superficial level.
Correct.
And even though maybe you succeed for a lot of years, and maybe you also earn a lot of money with that, I'm very sure that something inside of yourself won't.
You cannot.
Happy, you know. So
yeah,
I think you need to feed not only your. How do you say? You should not just take care of yourself with money, you know, to pay the rent and the food and everything. But you should also do some inner work, and when you look at the mirror, be proud of yourself. So that's the other thing. Yeah.
Okay. So my next question is, what was a determining factor that put you on this journey as a journalist, and at the same time as an entrepreneur that is not located within one spot? Do you have a eureka moment in any of the two that makes you feel that you have made it, or you make a difference?
Yeah. So there are different reasons that I started this.
Okay.
One of the reasons was that I was working in Netherlands in a very nice television company as a head of digital. But I also had a feeling like, oh, I could do this job still do this job in 4 years as well.
Yeah.
So I felt like, oh, maybe this is a good time to take a break and kind of a sabbatical. And I'm not a person that lies on the beach all day, or you know, I mean, I like traveling. But I really like, I was connected to Tribe Theory because my brother-in-law is the founder of Tribe Theory. So I visited it a year ago, and I was very enthusiastic about all the people traveling and working at the same time. So I thought maybe I can try that as well. And then for me, as a journalist in the Netherlands, we're always so much focused on what's happening in America. And a lot of journalists, they go to the United States to learn new things, to learn about what's happening there on different levels, innovation, etc. And I was intrigued by what's happening in Asia. So I just thought, like, I would really like to learn more about how media is organized here. And then I don't believe so much in the fact that the feeling that you made it, because I'm a kind of person that really thinks like the journey is better than the destination, you know, or more important.
Yeah, it's fine.
And that's what I see now as well. Also, it's also important to realize that, I think, because it makes that you appreciate the experiences you go through much more. So, but I did have a moment, like after 5 months of traveling this year, I was in a media conference in Kuala Lumpur, and I was one of the speakers there, and that was quite.
Congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. And that was really cool. And they asked me for that, and I quite spontaneously said, like, yeah, sure, I'm going to do that. And it was very nice. I did a good workshop with people about entrepreneurship and journalism.
Correct.
And when I was on stage there, I was like, yeah, this is cool. After a few months traveling, I'm a speaker in a conference in Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, that was a good moment. And that's the other question you were asking was when do I feel that it's worth it, or
you have made it.
Yeah, so not so much I made it, but more the feedback I get from people when you talk to people and you help them out, or it's more individual conversations, you know.
It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes, like, the best validation you get is from some people that you don't know. I get where you're coming from.
Oh, but I have that. Actually, I have that all the time this year, because I mean, I forgot that I met you in Singapore before, but
Yeah. Sorry, sorry.
but I met so many people this
Yeah,
year, and
yeah,
it's actually the best to have conversations with people you don't know so much, but you while talking to them, you realize you have a lot of things in common. And
yeah.
then realizing and hearing from these people telling you, oh, I mean, so many people told me how nice they or how they like it that I'm interested in what's happening in Asia. Just
That's right.
interested, you know.
No
When I
worries.
say like, oh yeah, I'm interested in how the media is organized in Asia, they're already complimenting like, oh, it's so nice that you take your time to learn from what's happening here. So I get validations like that all the time. It's really cool.
Okay, just a quick shout out to Vikram, who is actually Sanna's brother-in-law. He's the
Yeah.
founder of Tribe Theory. And then quick
Yes.
shout out to Tribe Theory. I give you guys so many shout out. I think you guys should start paying me for it. I'm just joking. Yeah, because at least including yourself, I've met four of my other guests from Tribe Theory. So
Really, yeah.
yeah,
I met a lot of people there as well, and it's a great
yeah,
place to meet people. So definitely a good place. Yeah. And it's amazing what Vikram built in such a short period of time. So that's really
indeed.
cool. Yeah.
Okay, so in your time away, right, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life by spending time in the countries that is away, that is, sorry, spending time in the countries you live and work at?
Yeah. So I think why you laugh?
What?
Oh,
No,
I
sorry.
see you laughing. I think why you're
Uh,
laughing. Yeah.
Never mind. Carry on.
Okay, never mind. So this for me would definitely be Vipassana meditation. So I meditate, and this gives me. I mean, the method of Vipassana meditation. I won't discuss it too long, but it gives me actually the core of it is to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. So you can imagine that it's very helpful if you travel. If you're in a new situation all the time, you know, you in a situation that you're not immediately comfortable in, the practice of meditation helps me to stay grounded. And I think that's the thing I use the most.
Wow, I can't even stand meditation. Yeah,
Try it.
as a Buddhist, meditation is something that was taught to us in order to calm our mind. But my
Yeah.
three attempts at it, all three attempts, I fell asleep.
Yeah.
And at least there was one of the monks that actually told me at that time it was fine. At least it shows that you are at peace. But when you are at peace and you were snoring in a room full of 100 people, it is not a good impression.
No, but it's funny though.
Yeah,
And it
it,
means that you need more rest, you know. I mean,
thank you.
meditation also shows us that what you really you mean. I mean, it brings you in tune with your body. And a lot of times we use our mind and our heads to analyze things, to rationalize things, to do things, to think, to talk to people, and we forget about our body. And when you tap into your body and you really start to feel, you also
Yeah.
feel that you're maybe very, very tired, and that's why you start snoring during meditation. But
Uh,
actually the message is take more rest.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, to everyone. So if you snore during meditation the next time, hear what Sana say is not wrong. Okay, carry on.
Exactly. It's okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. With how much one's perspective and horizons change, right, after spending your time abroad, how
Yeah.
do you feel one could maintain a healthy relationship with family and significant others? So why I mention this is this. So with 13 episodes, I've met at least people from 13 countries, but since some of them are TCKs, it's in a sense I talk to people indirectly of multiple countries again. So we a lot of times is we are unable to bond like with our partner or with our own family members. In fact, I one of the reason why I started this channel is because I was having frustration in living in Indonesia in Jakarta. It's because the lifestyle of Indonesian and Singaporeans are two vastly different things. So as a result, because there's like a counterculture, it's because maybe one way for us to accept a point of view is different than the others. For yourself, how do you think you have maintained a healthy relationship with your family and significant others also with regards to this?
Yeah. So I'm my parents and my two sisters. We're in a WhatsApp group, and we send each other messages almost daily. Sometimes a little bit too much, but I mean, it's my sister. She's living in Singapore already for quite some years. My other sister lives in Amsterdam, and my mother and father also live in the Netherlands. So I mean, WhatsApp is a very easy way to keep in touch. It's easy to quickly send a picture or tell a short story where you're at. It also, voice messages is very nice because then people can hear your voice. Skype, I mean, it's in that sense, it's quite easy to keep in touch. But I do recognize that even though it's very easy to send messages, the longer stories, or I mean, they're not here, right? So you cannot always share everything the same way, because their perspective is also very different. Their life is very different if people are still in the Netherlands. And most of the time, I don't try to explain too much. I just wait for people to ask questions and accept that this is what it is, and try our best to keep a good connection. I mean, I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for, but
no, I think it's unapplicable. But I guess with regards to myself, it's a bit tougher. It's because being a TCK or a TCK or cross-culture kid, you learn to adapt the other country's perspective. Like, for example, in Indonesia, there's a phrase called ABS, asal bapak senang. So let's say in a workplace, as long as the boss is happy, nobody is gonna lift a finger. Everybody is just gonna operate as smoothly as it is. However, like in some cultures, they can't accept this kind of mindset. It's like, if there's an issue, I'm going to report it directly to my superior because I need to get it done. However, because of this counterculture, they are unable to adapt to this mindset. And for myself personally, there are times that I just feel some ethics and custom can seem redundant, and in fact, it's sorry for the language. It's a waste of time. It's because in Indonesia, like, I attended a meeting which is supposed to be a 2 hours meeting. At least the first hour, there's no discussion about work. It's about bonding session. Everybody is trying to make friends with another people, and even when the meeting commences, it's entirely redundant. It's just a self-promoting. So I find it idiotic. I don't like it. I can't accept this kind of mindset. It's because I feel that if there's work, then we should immediately settle the work first, get to the straight point, summarize what needs to be done, and then there will be a time for the bonding session after the briefing and summary. So I guess that's the difficulty that I encountered.
But how does this connect to staying in touch with your family and friends? Or
that's just an example. I guess it's because an example of mindset. It's because, like, in Indonesia, it's a very common for, like, I think in most Asian countries, it's common for the children, even when they get older, they have to maintain their ties, the strong ties to their family, their parents. So whereas in the Western countries that I know of, is that typically by the time you are like 18 years old or so, is you're out of the house. A lot of time they just came back is because maybe things didn't work out in their workplace, or maybe something happened and they went home. So this is what I was just referring to. It's because
a
reflection of your office is a reflection of your home life, I guess. So that's how I relate it. I know it's a bit odd, but I don't know. Sometimes my mind just doesn't have a unique way of linking stuff.
I know. Well, that's creative, but no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, there definitely is a big difference, I think, between Western countries and what's happening in Asia in that regard. Definitely.
Okay. All right then. If with that, then I actually will ask the last question of the day. What 3 questions what three advice would you give to somebody who is just about to graduate from college? Is because maybe they have taken a certain subjects, or they've studied a certain things that they thought that they are interested in, but when they enter the real world, they will encounter new experiences. Then they realize, hey, I'm actually better than this, or they found out something that they are more passionate about. So what would you advise to that, Sanne? And oh, sorry, if
One more
let's say,
question.
oh no, sorry, it's a bit of an extension of that. If let's say now you referred back to when you are your teenage years and you are still trying to make a decision with your life, so basically you are in the shoes of this college kids for
Yeah.
yourself. So it's basically your point of view with your
Yeah.
current perspective.
Yeah, okay. I will share a little bit about my own experience, because when I was in university, I studied art management, which I really liked. I really liked that. But then I did an internship at a radio station, and that's how I got more involved in journalism.
Sure.
And I was offered an extra internship at a current affairs program. And my editor-in-chief back then, he said like, oh, if you like journalism, you should study journalism after this. So it was actually quite coincidental that I went from one internship to the other. I didn't have to do an extra internship, but it was a national radio news program, which I already really liked. And I thought like, oh, this is a chance for me to get some experience and work with this amazing journalist. So let's just do it. And that decision made me do a master in journalism. And then when I started to work in journalism, I really liked the company I was working at, and I did my best. And through these decisions, through just working hard, I got different position in the company and became a manager in the end. I wouldn't recommend everyone because I didn't even really think about the decision. People were like, oh yeah, can you be the manager of this part of our organization? And I would be like, yeah, sure. I wouldn't think about it too much. So if you come to the point of what I would advise people, what I would advise my younger self, I think it would be something like work on your skills or work on your self-esteem. Be comfortable with yourself, because then if you make decisions, you make them from your confidence, instead of from a position that you think you might miss out on something. And I don't regret any decision I make, because it brings me here. And also I have quite a lot of experience in media companies in the Netherlands. So I really love everything I did. But I definitely recognize that the time after college and starting in the work field was also a time full of insecurities. And I think when I would have invested a little bit more in being more secure on a younger age, then that would have been very helpful, I think. Yeah.
All right. Okay. And with that, that's actually my last question. Sanne, do you have anything you want to say? Maybe like there's an upcoming event that you are sponsoring or anything?
Well, I'm going to Bangalore soon. So I'm leaving Bali on Friday. And I've been to Bangalore before this year, and I really like the city. So I will be there, and I will definitely do a few events at Tribe Theory in Bangalore as well. So look at their Facebook page, I would say. And just see what's happening there. I haven't planned a lot ahead yet. So you can follow me on Instagram as well. We'll definitely post it there as well.
Okay, I've put Sanne's Instagram and some of her social media and even her LinkedIn in the description box. So if you guys are interested, please let her know, and please let her know that you guys know her from my channel, because if not, I think she will be freaked out if you are just a random stranger just randomly messaging her. Okay.
Yeah, I don't freak out so easily, but okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Let
it's
me
good.
know. It's fun. It's good for your channel too, Calvin.
Thank you. All right then, and with that, that's the end of Global Citizens episode 13. So thank you so much, Sanne, for your time, and yeah,
Yeah, thank
enjoy the rest of
you.
your day.
Yes,
Thanks.
you
Bye.
too. Bye bye.